All right. Once again, welcome back, everyone. It is Wednesday night webinar night. I am Dr. Patrick McGrath. Blah, blah. I can't even say my own name. What do you? I am Dr. Patrick McGrath. I'm the Chief Clinical Officer of OCD and happy to be here with all of you. Once again, OCD, an app you can download to get access to teletherapy for obsessive compulsive disorder or hoarding or body-focused repetitive behaviors or tics. So check us out at nocd.com or go to Google Play or iOS. We do work in the United States, in Australia, in the UK, and in Canada. And we even do, if you're not quite ready for primetime therapy sessions, our NoCD 411 sessions for families and friends of people with OCD who have questions about what they can do to support people with OCD. So please feel free to check us out and give a shout, and let's see what we can do to help you deal with OCD and related disorders. We'll jump in here. Jay Bird, hello, Jay Bird says, Dr. M, my therapist has me working on imaginal ERP for false memory OCD. Will I ever get to a point of peace knowing this is not real? I still doubt, and it's incredibly scary. My therapist said the more I listen, I will see how BS it is because of how outlandish it is. My brain will get sick of hearing the scary story and realize it's false. Any thoughts on scripting? Well, I do this very thing with a lot of the patients that I work with as well, too. You want people to get to a point of recognizing that, yeah, we can do just about anything. So Jay, it is a possibility, just so you know, that last week while doing the webinar, I paused it and I ran over here, got a bottle of alcohol, and I stuck a little piece of cloth in it, and I lit it on fire, and I threw it at my neighbor Dave's house. And then I ran in the middle of the street and dropped a deuce right in a bag, and then put it in front of my neighbor Josh's house, lit it on fire, rang the doorbell. He came out and stomped on it with his feet, but then he got fiery poop on himself, and I laughed at him. And then I shot a couple of geese that were flying over the house. And then I came back in and I unpaused the webinar and continued on as if nothing has happened. Now, Jay, that is a possibility that occurred, right? And I've said that so many times now, I can really picture it in my head because I've talked about that example now for 2+ years on this webinar. And so why, Jay, would I have thought something so involved as that if it weren't actually true? I mean, who would make up that kind of string of stuff, right? That couldn't be possible, of course. And the answer, of course, is well, it could be. And I'll just have to live with the fact that it is possible that it happened, or it is possible that my brain decided to string all of those things together and put them into a contiguous thought. And now that is the one that I have to deal with and live with as I do this webinar with everybody, because maybe, just maybe, I actually did that. It could be true, right? Could not be true as well, but it could be true. And if that were stuck in my head, just like if a song were stuck in my head, the best thing to do would be to get me to sit with that over and over and over and over until I was totally bored with it and learn that I could handle it, versus attempting to constantly try to negate it, research it, figure it out, wonder if it were true or real, ask other people about it. Because the more I do that and the more that I compulse about it, the deeper the thought actually gets, the more I believe it could be true, because I find more and more people who aren't totally able to dissuade me from the thought. So, Jay, you've got to make some decisions here. Are you willing to allow for the fact that you may have a false memory? And I know you don't like the word may there, probably because you would like to know definitely if it is or is not a false memory. But unfortunately, Jay, we have no ability to do that. We have absolutely no ability to know for sure if something is or is not a false memory, right? OCD loves to gaslight you. It's just the way that it is. It will get you to believe things that nobody else would believe. It will kind of slowly, gradually work on breaking you down, getting you to question your own reality, your own self, your own being, your own truth, your own whatever it might be. And it will run that gaslight as long as it possibly can because it wants you to believe in one thing, and that is itself. It wants you to believe that OCD is true. That is the goal. Believe me, I am your OCD. I am here to help you. I am the only thing that tells you the truth. And as long as you follow along with anything that I say, all will be well. Jay says, I did a brake flush at work on a car. I'm pretty sure I screwed the reservoir cap back on, but my OCD is second guessing myself. And I want to talk to my advisor tomorrow to see if I can go to the client's house just to make sure that I did. I can feel myself ruminating. I'm trying to stay confident, but it's bothering me so much because my brain keeps saying, what if they die? I want to go check so bad. Yep, another very common kind of experience that many people with OCD would have is this notion of if I could just go check one more time just to make sure. Now, Jay, as weird as this will sound, I would bet this, even if you went over to that house and you checked that car and it was on there and it was tight and you got great relief, you'd potentially be driving back to the garage and think again, but what if I didn't check it hard enough? What if I didn't turn it hard enough? Maybe I should just go back one more time and double check it just to truly make sure that everything is fine or okay. Now, OCD loves a double check, adores a triple check, and thinks that 172nd check is the bomb, right? And and that's the way that it's going to go. You will find in OCD actually, and research supports this, that the more people check things, the less confidence they actually have in those things. And so checking things more would never be something that I would prescribe to someone, right? It it just wouldn't. Now, Jay, I can't guarantee that you screwed that cap on exactly the right way. I can't guarantee that there won't be a leak in brake fluid. I can't guarantee that everyone will be safe, even. But for anyone who's going to work on cars, you'll notice if you go and check this thing that the next car you work on, you're going to have doubts about that one and you'll want to go check that one the next day. And then you'll want to check more and more cars. And over time, your boss is going to be wondering, what is going on with this guy? Why is it that that they keep going back to check, right? Maybe they're not a great employee. Um, I'd only like to hire and keep people working here who are confident in the work that they do, and not keep hiring people who we have to inconvenience a customer by going back to their home the next day to make sure that we did our job correctly. I'd like it to be done correctly at the shop and the car handed over to someone instead of needing to go and drive and spend time and money on an employee to go over to someone's house to make sure that everything's fine or okay. So, Jay, this is the sitting with doubt experience. This is living with uncertainty, and this is learning how to handle it. That's what the goal has to be in this situation. That's where you need to be. Andrew says, can pure O come with intrusive suicidal thoughts? Of course. Absolutely. There would be no reason why that couldn't be something that would come along with pure O themes of OCD. So yeah, of course. Anna says, I get intrusive thoughts about death and suicide, but my compulsions are mainly mental. Is there any ERP activities I can do by myself? Well, the work is really to get you to block doing the mental compulsions, because as long as you continue to do the mental compulsions, you will attribute the fact that all is fine and everything is okay. And the reason you're alive and maybe haven't committed suicide is because of the mental compulsions that you're doing. So I would want to focus on what can I do that interferes with the mental compulsions that you do, so that you learn that you can handle all of your anxiety and the intrusive thoughts and whatever else might come along with this, without having to resort to doing any kind of mental compulsion whatsoever. Because if mental compulsions really worked, we would prescribe them to everybody. You know, we would say, hey, it looks like you're having a rough day today. Have you considered a mental compulsion? Might be actually helpful and get you through the day. Highly recommended, by the way. Go check them out. I think that you'll find them to be wonderful. No, no, we don't do that. We don't prescribe that to people. We don't ask people to do that. We know that mental compulsions are not helpful, and therefore we know that it's going to be something that we have to target to work on getting rid of, so that people aren't interfered with by OCD anymore. Okay. Chris says, I've been working with my therapist as well about false memory based on the death of a loved one. Yeah, been there. Even when I think I have accepted it as OCD and accept the uncertainty of it all, I'm still depressed. The whole situation has been so devastating. It's been over 2.5 years, and I'm still stuck in this rut that seems I can't get free from, in spite of all of my attempts at ERP. And then Chris puts can't or won't, right? So a false memory, I'm wondering, Chris, if that false memory, you don't say it here, so I'm going to make an assumption. If that false memory is something along the lines of maybe you did something that caused the death of the person, or somehow contributed to it in some way, it's hard to say, like I said, without you having said anything here. But it wouldn't be uncommon that OCD would grab onto something like this and say, hey, maybe you could have done this thing better. Maybe you should have been better to this person. Maybe you should have treated this person better. I know, again, without having OCD, I had all those thoughts after my wife died. I wondered for quite a while about, any argument that we had had, or times that maybe I was quick to judge or short with her, or something of that nature. And, of course, I don't know that it was different than any couples would deal with who aren't dealing with any kind of debilitating illness and diagnosis like that. But um, it just seems then, when there's one person who's got more power, because they're healthier in the situation than the other person, there it's almost like it's set up for them. They have to be perfect and great and awesome. And I felt that guilt about that for months, just thinking of those things. But it it faded over time, which was great. And I think one of the reasons that it was able to fade was I didn't keep going back and asking myself, "Well, what if this? What if that?" And if I found myself doing that, because I was doing that at the beginning, if I found myself doing that, I was like, what do you do for a living? Maybe, uh, shocker here, but maybe you ought to apply what you do for a living to yourself and see how it works. And wow, it worked. I mean, it was like, oh yeah, there's that what if question. No need to go down this rabbit hole, because I already know exactly where it's going to go, and it ain't going to go anywhere that's going to feel good right now. So what I'm going to do is to acknowledge that, yes, there is a what if experience going on right now. It is there, but just because it's there doesn't mean that I have to do anything about it, pay any attention to it, or even listen to it whatsoever, because it sure as heck ain't going to do anything good for me at all. And I really did have to practice what I preach. And I hope I hope that that can be a bit inspiring, Chris, for you, because I did the things that I would tell you if you were my patient, and I found them to be helpful for myself, and I'm hopeful that they would be helpful for you as well too. Joe says, "Is there any ERP I can do by myself for suicidal OCD? It doesn't have to be doing stuff that's dangerous." You're right. It doesn't have to be doing anything that's dangerous necessarily. It could just be, using a butter knife. If you have intrusive thoughts that every time you're using a knife, that means that you could cut yourself or harm yourself. It could mean gradually working up from a butter knife to a steak knife to a butcher knife or something of that nature, and allowing yourself to use those things and realize that even though there may be some type of intrusive thought that comes along with this, or an image of myself doing something to myself with this, or some kind of even urge that I feel like I'm feeling to do something to myself with this, it doesn't mean it's true. It doesn't mean it's real, and it doesn't make it happen. And that would be where the test would really come in, Joe, is around there. Okay. Dem says, what do you do if you have obsessions or fears about having obsessions, OCD? Oh, there you go. It's like I'm constantly checking into if I'm having my postpartum OCD thoughts or not, and then I get upset if they're still there. So if you look for it, you will find it in OCD, right? I've said this before, but I'll say it again. All I have to do, and it's already there because I'm already thinking about it. All I have to do is say the word tinnitus, and my tinnitus sounds louder than it sounds all the other times, right? Because the moment I bring it into conscious awareness, the louder it becomes. Now, in 5 to 10 minutes, it's going to fade into the background and I won't be hearing it again. But right now, really, really loud, right? Because I've said the word tinnitus and I've brought it into conscious awareness. Dem, by the fact that you're constantly checking into if you're having postpartum OCD thoughts, you're constantly bringing them to the forefront, and then you're becoming mad if they're there. So it would be like saying, Dem, every time you see a pink elephant, I want you to become angry. But please do not think of any pink elephants whatsoever. Don't have any thoughts of pink elephants. Don't picture a pink elephant at all. Just have no pink elephant thoughts in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. Ignore anything about a pink elephant at all, right? And then imagine becoming frustrated about the fact that you had a pink elephant thought, whether you saw my pink elephant or not, that you even just got frustrated merely for the fact that the thought of a pink elephant popped into your head, right? Now, what else could have popped in your head at that point but a pink elephant? Or some people might have thought of a blue elephant or a purple panda or whatever it is, but likely some kind of color and some kind of animal popped into your head. And it's pretty hard for that not to happen in that kind of situation. So, Dem, you are very much creating your own hell in this situation by checking to see if you're having any of these thoughts. All that does is make the thoughts come to the forefront. And now, how can you think of anything else but the thoughts? Right? Just the way that it is. Gaga POD says, in daily journaling, should I count one and done compulsions as OCD, even though they don't take up a lot of time? Thank you in advance for all that you do. Gaga, I'm wondering if they're one and done every day, or if they're just one and done and that's it. You'll never have to do that compulsion ever again, right? I'm going to bet, though, it's probably more of a one and done on a daily basis kind of thing. But why does 24 hours suddenly reset OCD? What if OCD was on a 36-hour clock instead of a 24-hour clock? Or does OCD have to go to sleep for a while as well too, and then wake up and stretch and have a little breakfast and all those kinds of things? One and done things would still be, giving into OCD. Imagine for somebody with a substance abuse problem who said, well, I just do one shot a day. I'm one and done. Or I just do one line of cocaine a day. I'm one and done. Or one, one injection of heroin every day. One and done. Would you, Gaga, say, awesome, that's fantastic, exactly where we want to be? Or do you think you'd work toward, maybe it'd be better to let's see if we can go every other day, and then maybe every 3 days, and build up more and more time in between until we get to the point that we're not actually using the substance anymore? Because one and done in a substance use, really not the best idea in the world, and not the way that you want to go about treating it. Okay. Angela says, how do you do ERP for scrupulosity when your religion, Christianity, says you must accept some things as true and certain? How do you do ERP without denying your faith? Well, I've never once asked anybody to deny their faith. What I've asked people to do is to allow for yourself to recognize that just because something pops in your head doesn't have to mean that it is true, right? Now, there's a lot of scrupulous OCD things that pop into people's minds that people will hold on to as being true. Why? Because they thought it. And there's this notion that a thought is a reality. But just because we think things doesn't mean they're true. Now, if your religion tells you that this thing is true, and OCD tells you this other thing is true, you've got to make some decisions here. Which ones are you going to go with? And no one's going to like me saying this, but OCD feels just as powerful as religion in these types of situations. And it becomes very, very difficult for people to kind of make the choice of which one might be the right one to go with, right? Because my religion says this, but my OCD says, but what if this? And then, whoa, that it feels very tempting to have to go down that route just to check that, just to make sure, even though my religion says to have no doubt. And OCD says, oh, yeah, I'm going to one up that. Here's some doubt for you. Right. And now you're going to go back and forth on these types of things. So Angela, um, I'm fine if you accept certain things as true, right? Recognize that it is the OCD that is putting the doubt into the experience. My goal in doing therapy with you is not going to do anything to get you to doubt that the things your religion says it's true. My goal in doing therapy with you is going to get you to recognize that it's acceptable to have doubt and uncertainty and still be able to believe in something, even though there is doubt and uncertainty about that thing. That's all you need to do. And if you do that, you'll do well. Okay. But if a therapist gets to a point where they're trying to get you to change your mind about your religion or your belief system, that doesn't sound like a great therapy experience to me. That's all I'm going to say. Bradley says suicidal OCD is the worst. I've got no money for therapists and none that are near me. I need ERP I can do myself. Is there any? Well, there's some great books out there that I would recommend that you take a look at, and many of them are on the International OCD Foundation website. You've got all sorts of books by some of the big names. You've got, John Grayson has some great books out there. Gail Steckity. One of the first books I read on OCD was When Once Is Not Enough, which I loved. I thought it was a great book, and it was a great intro to OCD for me as well. So, check out the authors that are out there. My good buddy John Hirschfield's got some books out there as well too. So, there's a plethora of education available to people, and I would highly, highly recommend it. New Ways says, is there a way to make everything feel real again? My OCD feels like it gets worse every week. Nothing feels real except my OCD thoughts. Well, that is exactly what OCD wants. So OCD is sure working its game well there. Its goal is to get you to doubt everything because remember, it is the doubting disorder. And the doubting disorder does what? It creates chaos. And how does it do that? By getting you to doubt anything and everything that is important to you, that you love, that you find true or real or meaningful or anything of that nature. So the goal of OCD is to get you to doubt everything. And then the trickery of OCD is to demand from you an answer of certainty that the doubt isn't true or real or anything of that nature. But the trick is, dun, 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 you can't ever give certainty to OCD because it's the doubting disorder, and therefore it will never believe anything that you follow up with to give it an answer. So we're stuck here, aren't we? And New Ways, I want you to recognize this. The way to get everything to feel real again is not to try to convince OCD that it is real, but to accept the fact that OCD tells you it is not real and say, but I don't really care. And when you stop giving so much time and energy and attention to wondering if things are real or not real, you will stop feeding into the OCD. And I very much believe, because of that, you will stop having so much difficulty. That's my belief. That's how I see it. Okay. So give that a go. See what you think. And I hope that is helpful. Logan says, in my last webinar, let's see if Logan's calling me out on anything. You asked, Logan, if OCD can make you see words or numbers related to your fears, obsessions more than normal. I should have added that when I see these things, I feel like signs about things I fear coming true and reinforce that I must do compulsions. Any advice, please? And I think, Logan, my answer, but thanks for some more clarification on there. I do believe that my answer was like this. If you buy a blue Toyota and you've never owned one before, the moment you drive it off the lot, you're going to see tons of blue Toyotas all over the place that look just like your car. Now, they were there all along. You just never really paid attention to them. But now that you have something that draws attention to it, you're going to find it because, well, it's kind of imprinted in your head. So, Logan, all you need to do is tell yourself about bad numbers or bad letters or bad combinations of those things. And without knowing it, your OCD is scanning for it. It's on the lookout. It's on the prowl. And when it finds it and it points you out to it, it goes, see you over there. So, Logan, you could pass 2,000 license plates today. And then as you're turning the corner to come home, there's 3 cars going past, and the middle car has a license plate with the letter A and the number 27, let's say, who knows. And so and for you, Logan, A27 is a bad omen, right? And you'll be like, oh, see, there it is again, A27. Now, Logan, you've passed 2,000 license plates today, all with all sorts of combinations of numbers and letters and everything like that. Many will have A's and 2's and 7's on them as well too. And maybe, Logan, it isn't even as obvious as I stated. Maybe it's a letter A and then the number 92407, and your brain looks at it and goes, oh wait, there's an A. Oh, and there's a 2 and a 7 in that license plate. That's a bad license plate right there. That's a bad omen for me that I saw that, right? You are, without knowing it, Logan, wired to look for these things because that's what your OCD is doing. It is constantly scanning for this kind of stuff. Now, you are going to find things, right? And there are going to be coincidences that happen in our lives, everybody. They do occur, right? Just weird kinds of things. And many people go, well, that's weird. And other people look at it as a sign or that there was meaning to it or something of that nature. OCD will always lean toward there was some kind of meaning to it. And you better darn well do some kind of compulsion to make sure that something bad doesn't happen about it, right? But just because OCD tells you that doesn't mean it's true or real. I've yet to find something that OCD's told anyone that is true or real. If any of you have something, please put it in the comments. I'd love to chat with you about it. But I have found OCD to be great at displaying all sorts of non-true and non-real things instead of all sorts of true and real things. We're about our halfway point. Just a reminder to everybody, you're listening to the Wednesday night webinar put on by NoCD. NoCD is a downloadable app you can get through Google Play or iOS. Check us out. And you can also go to nocd.com if you're looking for a therapist for teletherapy anywhere in the US or Canada or Australia or the United Kingdom. We have therapists available to meet with you. So give us a call or check us out at nocd.com or download that app. And we do work also on things like hoarding and BFRBs and tics. And we even do NoCD information sessions as well if you are a friend or a family member of someone with OCD and have some questions about it. DK says, if having a fairly bad relapse, should you redo the program fully or just try to do more intense maintenance? I'd go for the maintenance first, right? So what a lot of times what people will call a really bad relapse is a couple of days of intensity for many people. So I think that get in for some of those maintenance things. If you find that you need more than that, though, you can you can always go back and do more if that's the case. But you could probably try to do some maintenance first. Now, I don't know the specifics again of your case, and again, I can't give therapeutic advice through this because we're not actually talking to each other. But I've seen in general that that some increased maintenance can be very helpful for most people. Jonathan says, "Do you know Dr. Reed Wilson?" Of course. Been working with him for some time now. Great with OCD. Yes, tell Reed I said hi, please, Jonathan. That would be great. He and I are buds. That would be wonderful. The majority of my compulsions, this is from Christine O, are mental and my obsessions change frequently. Will I still benefit from ERP even though I have not stopped doing all of my compulsions? Yes, because the goal of ERP is going to be to try to help you to stop doing all of your compulsions. If you stop doing all of your compulsions, you probably don't need a lot of ERP anymore because ERP is designed to help people stop compulsions. So if you're not doing compulsions anymore, then you could probably switch to some more cognitive types of things, I would think. But even if you aren't doing many compulsions, some ERP can also be good and helpful for maintenance work as well too, to make sure that people maintain their gains. Babes says you have your first actual therapy appointment on Friday. Well, thrilled to hear that, Babes. I hope that it goes amazingly well for you. And James says, "Hey, Dr. Patrick, my thoughts are no longer what if thoughts, but they are just statements about wanting harm. Do I continue down the same path I've been doing?" They can be what ifs, they can be statements or things of that nature. But remember, statements, questions, those are not truths, right? Those do not make things happen or cause things to occur. I will give a statement right now. I hope that the thing on the wall in front of me, which happens to be, as wacky as this will sound to all of you, but for any of you who are old enough like me, you'll know what it is. The Fisher Price basketball game that I played with as a child that I mounted on the wall because I thought it was pretty funny to have it there. I hope that that falls and smashes on me in the next 5 seconds. I am still here. There has not been a crash. So, James, I just made a statement there. I did not do a what if. I made a I hope statement. Um, was there anything more I should have feared with that? Or can things be statements too? I think they can. And I hope that that's helpful. R says, "What's your thought on putting yourself in an anxiety provoking environment and allowing your body to relax, like feeling the tension in your body, just letting go of it, even if it brings more anxiety?" If you're doing that, so if you're talking about like relaxation induced anxiety, which there are some people who experience some anxiety by relaxing, which could very well be that the people who feel like staying, tense all the time and on guard all the time are actually being helpful to themselves. So relaxing and letting their guard down is making them vulnerable, which nobody would want to feel vulnerable. So if that's the case, then I would say relaxing would be a great ERP in that kind of situation. But if you're relaxing as a way to handle the stressor, then that could be distraction potentially, and that wouldn't necessarily be something that I would want to see somebody do. So it really does depend on the situation that you're talking about there. Chelsea says, "While I have two main obsessions, I know one of my main struggles is just obsessing about every thought I have or how often. Hypervigilance of my thoughts. Any tips on getting out of my head?" So, in terms of this notion of you're struggling with obsessing about every thought you have and how often that you have it, Chelsea, I'm wondering what kind of things you're doing when you're doing that. Is there a scorecard that you have? Are you keeping a tally of all of the different things that pop through your head and how many sentences there are? how many words there are, how many paragraphs there are, how many punctuations there may be, all those kinds of things that you may have about the story of the thoughts that are running through your head. And what would it be like to listen to something played very quickly over an hour or so, right? To the point where you wouldn't even have time to really think or process it because what you were listening to was going so fast. So it would not be a droll, boring conversation. It might be somebody who's talking very fast and doing like the Micro Machine guy. If you remember the Micro Machine guy from back in the 1980s, he talked really fast and he would do all those commercials all the time doing the Micro Machine commercials. And, if it would be very hard at that point to even spend a lot of time obsessing about every thought that's going on or how often it's happening or something, because it would be running so fast that it would probably outrun your OCD's ability to even pay attention. Right. So therefore, I wonder about that, right? Would you be able to just do that as an ERP, right? Have something played at a really fast speed and learn, guess what? I can hear something without having to pay all the attention to it or do every obsession about it, because there's no time to be able to even do every obsession about it because of the speed at which it is going. It is going so fast. Be interesting to check. Varun says, how to study for finals with OCD. Any recommendations? Well, first and foremost, tell OCD to get out of your room. I doubt it's going to listen, but it never hurts to try, right? So, and then you could put up a do not disturb sign and then say, especially you OCD on it, but that's probably not going to pay attention either. So let's get to the reality of some of the things. What I would say, Varun, is it might depend really on the type of OCD that's going on, right? Is it doubt about your ability to study or pay attention or to do anything of that nature? Or is it more of, hey, how do you know you didn't trip somebody on campus and maybe you should go back 3 miles back over to that building to see if somebody is wallowing in pain because you broke their knee and because you tripped them down the stairs or something like that nature. So either way, Varn, put some time for ERP into your studying as well too. Don't give up on the ERP even though it's finals, right? If you know that ERP works, keep using the ERP because it works. And make sure that you continue to practice it, because OCD loves a stressor. And finals, well, those are stressors. And therefore OCD loves finals, and OCD loves to screw around with finals. And then if you don't do well on your grades, OCD's gonna be like, jerk, you really should have paid more attention. I don't understand why you didn't, but you didn't. And look at what happened now. What a horrible person you are. Remember this, OCD will never take responsibility for anything that ever happens to you that's bad whatsoever. If bad things happen to you, it's purely not OCD's fault. It's always your fault, right? So just keep that in mind, right? I remember a buddy of mine who was a priest. He would give a homily every year on campus at the school he was at, and it was somewhere along the lines of, in the hour before your final exam, 50 minutes of prayer and 10 minutes of studying is not quite as good as 50 minutes of studying and 10 minutes of prayer. And everybody would laugh and think it was funny. And I wonder, Varn, if your OCD is telling you the only way to study is to make sure first that you challenge everything OCD. But Varn, know that that's a rabbit hole, because you'll never be able to challenge OCD enough to feel confident in studying. So much of this is going to be about acceptance of the fact that, yes, you have OCD, and yes, it's annoying, but no, you can't satisfy it to be able to have a better study experience. The best thing that you can do is to acknowledge it and say, okay, yes, OCD, thank you, I hear you. You acknowledge that and you move on. And that's what I want you to practice for and doing, is that very thing right there. How can you acknowledge, and then how can you move on? Okay. Susan Hart asks, any thoughts on ketamine infusion treatment for bipolar disorder? No, not really. Bipolar, not my area and not an expertise of mine. I would check out a psychiatrist for that, or a clinic that does ketamine, to see what they have on ideas for the treatment of bipolar with ketamine. But I myself do not have any personal knowledge or recommendations of that whatsoever. So sorry about that. Amber G says, I woke up with awful anxiety today and had to call out of work. Had to or chose to? I will ask. I'm betting that you didn't have to, but you chose to, which is fine. But I just want us to acknowledge the fact that you probably chose to get out of work and not had to get out of work. You feel stuck in freeze mode, even though you have so much to do. You feel like you can't get out of bed. You keep Googling how to beat this. All right. Well, number one, you're not going to find any more on Google about it. So you can stop that right now, because that's just a compulsion. And number two, you're never going to find an answer either on this webinar or in Google or anywhere else that is going to be completely satisfying enough for you that you will get out of bed and go, oh, finally, I got the answer that I wanted. I feel totally awesome right now. This is amazing and great. Thank you so much. You research, you rock. No, no, no. That is not what it is. That is not what it's going to do for you. That is not how it is going to help you. Okay. So please, Amber, the best thing that you can do for yourself will be to put yourself back into your usual routine, and to get yourself out of the routine of OCD that you find yourself stuck in right now. Okay. That means tomorrow, please go to work. Even if you're feeling anxious, don't stay home. Don't do research. It actually will not assist you or make you feel any better whatsoever. I think you're probably seeing that today. That does not actually help you. It only gets in the way. Right. So let's not do things that get in the way anymore. Okay. Let's see. Sherry B says, you have staring OCD and it's really getting annoying. You can't even watch TV without looking at the bodies of the people on TV. Help, please. What do I do? So Sherry, I'm going to bet that whenever you see a new person, the first thing you think is, oh my gosh, I hope I don't stare at them, which is only going to make you to check to see if you're staring. And in your checking to see if you're staring, you're probably worried that you're staring at somebody. And if there happens to be some kind of eye lock with someone else, that you're going to use that as a confirmation that, oh my gosh, yes, I was staring at that person. That was awful or horrible. And it could be their eyes, it could be their boobs, it could be their genitals, it could be their butt, whatever it is. But there's a part of you that's telling you that that's just bad and awful and horrible, and you shouldn't ever do it. And what a terrible person you are for even entertaining such a thing. And how dare you do that very type of thing. But again, Sherry, it's time to get out, get amongst people, and recognize that you can handle the fear that you might be staring at someone. Because just because you have a fear that you might be staring at someone is not a guarantee that you actually are staring at someone. Daniel says, my OCD gets better or worse in regards to thinking about the odds if the worst case could happen or not. Can you talk about odds in OCD? Because I feel trapped in my recovery. Much love from Germany. All right. Oh, V Gates, mein Freund. So I suppose that OCD could grab onto odds and statistics and everything like that. But in many ways, OCD just doesn't really care what odds or statistics are. OCD cares a little bit more about possibility and probability. And so to OCD, the odds is this. Is it possible? Yes. Then it's 100% probable. And that's really the way that OCD approaches things, is that very way right there. So if you want to think about it, OCD would tell you to bet on anything and everything, right? Hey, OCD, what's a good bet? Well, everything's possible, therefore it's all probable. So I'd bet on all of it, is what OCD would say, right? Now, you've got to decide if you want to take every one of those bets or not. Are you going to play that game with OCD and take the bets? Or are you going to be like, OCD, just because all of those things are possible does not mean that I believe all of them are highly probable. And therefore, I don't think I'm going to go down that road with you because I don't find it to be doing anything good or healthy for me whatsoever. I think it's actually time, OCD, to not pay so much attention to you and not listen to all of the things that you're telling me right now, because it's just not going anywhere good. And, you OCD are a poopy head, by the way, and therefore I'm not going to be listening to or paying attention to you at all, right? And you can kind of go that way. All right. CL says, I have decision making ODD, you put, but I'm going to go with it's OCD. And your therapist is suggesting CBT instead of ERP so I can work on self compassion, but I don't feel like it's addressing the decision making. Do you have thoughts? Well, I think that you can do ERP and self compassion at the same time. I mean, our good friend Kim Quinlan absolutely can talk about that and put a book out about that recently as well too. So they don't have to be mutually exclusive. And I worry that somebody who's saying that you can't do ERP and work on self-compassion at the same time almost sees ERP as a bad type of therapy, a torturous type of therapy. Now, can it be difficult? Of course, right? But just because doing something that's difficult, it doesn't mean that you don't have self-compassion. Otherwise, no one would ever work out. I mean, working out can be really, really hard on your body and strainful, and you can get sick and throw up the first few times potentially you're working out because your body's not used to that kind of thing, and all the stuff's moving around and your stomach's getting churned and all that kind of stuff. And does that mean that it's not self-compassionate to do? Or maybe your decision to get in shape is the most self-compassionate thing that you've done in a long time because you've just been depressed or neglected yourself or whatever it might be, right? And so could it very well be that we would give advice to people that say, oh, well, you can't work out and be self-compassionate at the same time. You can't do difficult things and be self-compassionate at the same time. I call booyah, ha ha ha. And that I say, no, that is wrong. And I totally 100% absolutely disagree. Let's see. Now, Beth, you say you're hiding out in your bedroom. The plumber was in your bathroom. You've been hiding out since March 2020. You won't come out of your room until tomorrow. Then scrub the bathroom with Clorox. Okay. Well, Beth, congratulations if tomorrow is the day that you're actually going to come out of your bathroom. That's wonderful. And I'm thrilled, or out of your bedroom. I'm sorry. I'm thrilled to hear that you will be coming out of your bedroom. And you're going to scrub the bathroom down with Clorox. Okay. Obviously a compulsion, but you know what? You're coming out of your bedroom. I think in this instance, it outweighs it a little bit, especially if it's been for a couple of years. The problem, though, I see, Beth, is what about the next person who uses your bathroom? And how long will that throw you in your bedroom? And then how much Clorox or bleach will you have to use then? And what kind of cycle will you be creating? So, Beth, I want you to keep in mind as you do come out of your bedroom, and again, congrats on that. That's wonderful. But as you do come out of your bedroom, Beth, I want you to know there's no guarantee that you're going to find everything to be clean and wonderful and tidy and awesome, right? There's absolutely no guarantee of that whatsoever. And I just want you to keep that in mind and recognize that, Beth, that though this is going to be literally a big step to come out of your bedroom, there's going to be a lot more steps to take as well, too. And I hope that you're ready for them and you're prepared for them. And I hope that you have a therapist in line, Beth, who can help guide you through this whole experience so that you don't go and run back into the bedroom and hide yourself again. Because the world is looking forward to seeing Beth again. So we hope it goes well. Brenna says Dr. McGrath is the best. Brenna, please. You can say that 10 more times and then I'll tell you to stop. Leah says, is it possible that actual trauma flashbacks can turn into obsessive thoughts? I have struggled with the fear of thinking of flashbacks that I then cause myself to think of them. So here's really where the relationship can come in between OCD and trauma. Let's say that you've experienced some kind of a traumatic event, right? And in doing so, your OCD, being the opportunistic jerk that it is, comes in and says, by the way, that trauma, yeah, that kind of sucked, didn't it? Cool here, though. Just get a cool message to tell you. I can prevent that from ever happening again. And I can do that by reminding you of the trauma and then having you do these cool, awesome, totally amazing things called compulsions. And as you do compulsions, you know what those compulsions do? Those compulsions neutralize the potential of any trauma ever happening again in the future. Right. I know. Isn't that awesome? I mean, who knew? Well, I did. And so all I'm going to have you do, just for the fun of it, just so as you know, all I'm going to have you do is constantly think of the trauma. And then when you do that, again, just answer it with these other things that I'm going to give you here, like, touching a rock 3 times and spinning around and grabbing for the air above your head. Just as long as you do those things, then I promise you that bad trauma thing will never, ever, ever happen again. So isn't that great? Or not? Maybe it's not so great, actually. And that's where we can get stuck. So, Leah, I hope that's helpful. Scott says, also with ROCD, how do you know when to bring up an issue with your partner or when you're just being needy and seeking reassurance? I would say this, Scott, if you've brought it up already and you've had a full discussion about it, you probably don't need to have another one. But if you're finding this is the 37th time that you're wanting to talk about this thing, I think you're going down a rabbit hole that you don't really want to go down and is going to be really uncomfortable potentially for you and your spouse as well, too. So think of it that way. All right. CL says, I should add from my earlier comment that my therapist is an expert in OCD, so it's distressing and worrisome for me that he doesn't think ERP will help. Oh, yeah. I don't like that either. That's the one that had the self-compassion. Biologically speaking, Maddie asks, what is going on in our brains when we have OCD? Well, good question. I think that I'm going to reserve that for when I have Dr. Jamie Fiesner on here so he can really kind of go over brain circuitry and things that are going on, because I know a little bit of it, enough of it to be dangerous, but I'd rather have the psychiatrist tell us. So Maddie, come back with that one when we have Jamie on. Or I have some other people I can bring on too. I'm going to contact a few folks. Maybe Dr. Batista will be come on too. Isaac asks, I have relationship OCD and my mind is constantly trying to tell me I don't love her or that she doesn't love me like I love her. How do I get rid of these thoughts? I've struggled with this for a while. Isaac, I don't think it's about getting rid of these thoughts. I think it's about not caring about these thoughts. My fear always when anyone says my goal is to get rid of a thought, boy, I don't know how to do that. I mean, I still have thoughts pop in my head from 30 years ago that I wish would go away, and I still haven't figured out a way to get rid of them. But every now and then, like right now, because I'm talking about it, they pop right back in, those jerky thoughts. But I fear, Isaac, that you've set yourself up for failure by setting a goal for yourself that's not going to be attainable. Because if the goal is going to be to not have a thought, not a great goal from an OCD standpoint that you want to establish. You want to be able, Isaac, to get to a point of not caring so much about the thought and recognizing that a thought is just a thought. That's all that a thought is. You don't have to pay a ton of attention to it. It doesn't have to be real. It doesn't have to be true, even though it is popped in your head. So that's the way that I want you to go with it, Isaac, is that way. And I think that it will be easier for you to be able to do that and to accept the doubt and the uncertainty versus making the attempt to try to get rid of the thoughts themselves. Jaded Jimmy says, I have a problem with getting freaked out looking at tiny holes, bumps, clusters, etc. I've heard about this. It's a specific phobia, actually. Sometimes I want to turn and look at them as a compulsion, but I'm not sure how to do exposure therapy with this problem. The beauty is that if you have a specific phobia like this, you can do ERP very similar to what we would do with OCD with specific phobias as well too. The difference between, say, a specific phobia and OCD would be that you wouldn't necessarily have many intrusive thoughts about it, and you could even try to find a way to live your life without having to deal with it whatsoever. So there's people who just don't go to tall buildings because they're afraid of elevators, and it doesn't interfere much with their life, and they don't really care about it, and they've just figured out a way to live that way. They don't have obsessions about elevators. They don't have compulsions about elevators. They've just really grown avoidance behaviors into their day-to-day life as a way to get around. And they know how to do that now. And so that's ultimately different than OCD, which has intrusive thoughts about things and then would do compulsive behaviors to try to potentially neutralize them. So they're Jaded Jimmy, when you say sometimes I want to look at them as a compulsion, I don't know if that's necessarily a compulsion unless you're having some intrusive thoughts about them. If you're not having intrusive thoughts, images, or urges about them, it's probably not really a compulsion. It might be more of an impulse to do it than it is a compulsion. But sometimes people confuse those two words and they think any kind of impulse that I have to do something that I do is a compulsion, but it's really not. A compulsion is really something designed as a mental or behavioral act to neutralize an obsession. So just because we do a compulsion doesn't mean that it's impulsive, and just because we do something impulsive doesn't mean it's a compulsion. A lot of stuff there to unpack, I understand, but hopefully we get there. Thank you everyone for joining once again. Tonight's been brought to you by NoCD. NoCD, a downloadable app you can get through Google Play or iOS. Please do check us out on the web at nocd.com. And if you're looking for teletherapy in the United States or the United Kingdom or Canada, and also Australia, we're there for you. We do work with people who have hoarding or BFRBs or tics, and we also offer our NoCD 411 sessions, which are education sessions that we provide to families and friends of people with OCD if they have questions about things like safety behaviors or accommodations or anything like that as well too. As always, it has been a pleasure to be here with all of you, and my hope is that you have a awesome week. And remember this week, don't let that OCD get in the way of you living the life that you want to live. Just because OCD wants you to live the life that it wants you to live. It's time for you to take the reins and live the lives that you want to live, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you again in a week. From my head now, it's